All right, shalom, family.
Shalom.
And welcome to this year's Passover, 2023 Passover. As we keep getting closer and closer to the redemption of the children of Israel, these holy days are meaning more and more. A lot of times we read things and we don't really, sometimes we get so accustomed to things that it stops being special to us. We read the things that the angels, the fallen angels, are going to come down with Lucifer and make war with the seed, and we take those things for granted because we've heard them so much, but we have to prepare ourselves for this influx of spiritual demons who are going to do whatever they can to destroy us or get us to destroy ourselves. Okay, that's the part. We are accustomed to looking at the enemy coming toward us. We're not really accustomed to finding the enemy in us. See, we don't look that deep, and you have to understand who we fighting. You have to understand the power. When we read about the things concerning Judas Iscariot, it was something that entered into him. So he didn't see an adversary. He was the adversary. The adversary was in him. We are not accustomed to fighting internal fights. We are accustomed to fighting the individual in front of us. But it's very hard to swing at the individual in you. And if we don't get it understood that the adversary is a spirit, and that spirit can jump, you can't even get to the point where you're going to be angry at one individual, because as soon as you get angry at that individual and you put all your energy there, then the spirit jumps somewhere else. Now you still got your anger at this individual, but the spirit over there. Then as soon as you focus your energy over there, it jumps over here. So the thing is about recognizing the spirit and dealing with the spirit, not the vessel that the spirit uses. And that's good or bad. Because if you put too much emphasis even on the good, now you end up worshiping a man. What if that man falls? You still trying to worship that man, but he ain't walking in the word no more. We have to do this good and bad. And we got to man up to make sure that we stay looking at the right things. Now, we understand from our reading that Passover is a somber event, as our Messiah was crucified for us. When we understand how sacrificial law was instituted, the priests ate a portion of the offerings. When it comes to Passover, all of us, not just the priest, are commanded to eat the sacrifice that was offered up for us. Let's begin today's sermon in Exodus chapter 12, and we're going to read verses 1 through 28. And you really have to meditate on that for a minute, that all these other things, the priest had to eat the sacrifice. We get to Passover, everybody has to eat it. Everybody has to consume. And I always say, hey, there ain't no such thing as a vegetarian priest. Well, on Passover, ain't no such thing as a vegetarian. Sorry. You must eat that. You got to understand, the whole symbolic part of it, that you are consuming the sacrifice that preserved you. Exodus chapter 12, and let's start that at verse 1.
And Yahweh spake unto Moshe and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Speak you unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house. And if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbors next on to his house take it according to the number of the souls. Every man according to his eating shall make your count for the lamb. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. You shall take it out from the sheep or from the goats.
Now, your lamb shall be without blemish. This is, we're dealing with natural offerings in the physical sense. We have to understand that our spiritual offerings have to be without blemish too. And we can blemish our spiritual offerings just by something that's going on in between us that causes us to offer it in a way. If we supposed to turn in something on the first and it don't get there until the 8th, that offering blemished. You were supposed to do this work. Somebody else was waiting to do their work and waiting on you to turn in your work. That offering blemished. You 8 days late on this. Well, and what's the reason? Half of the time is because we was in our own thing. And we kept pushing Yahweh stuff back. Now, what about the person who's waiting to do their job? They can't start theirs because you ain't finished yours. Go ahead.
And you shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month. And the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening. And they shall take of the blood and strike it on the 2 side posts and on the upper door posts of the houses, wherein they shall eat it.
And y'all know some of us squeamish now. You know, we're not trying to, we'll eat lamb. But we're not trying to take no part in cutting and cutting out organs and letting blood run and stuff like that. We just, call me when you put the sauce on it. That's what we like to show up. We don't like. Now there's an ugly part of this. He said, you got to cut this. You got to do it. See, I need for you to see the blood that's shed for you. Keep reading.
And they shall eat the flesh in that night, roast with fire and unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. Eat not of it raw, nor sodden at all with water, but roast with fire, his head with his legs, and with the purtenance thereof.
I've never been one of those guys that like eating anything with the head still on it. I don't. But you have to understand the genius of Yahweh. Now I need for you to know that was something. No. This was something that had to die for you. I need for you to look at it. It always grossed me out to see that part of it. But I see the genius in his design. Now look at it. Now what did it do? It didn't do anything, did it? No, you the one that did something. Go ahead.
And you shall let nothing of it remain until the morning, and that which remains of it until the morning you shall burn with fire. And thus shall you eat it, with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand. And you shall eat it in haste. It is Yahweh's Passover. For I'll pass through the land of Egypt this night, and I'll smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast. And against all the gods of Egypt will I execute judgment. I am Yahweh.
You know what slows us down in dealing with things is it has been a long time of our suffering. And we in our minds can't see this kind of power coming to deal with these people. We're in the same situation today. We have been here so long, we really can't see something so strong dealing with this place. Go ahead.
And the blood shall be to you for a token upon the houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I'll pass over you, and the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you when I smite the land of Egypt. And this day shall be unto you for a memorial, and you shall keep it a feast to Yahweh throughout your generations. You shall keep it a feast by an ordinance forever. 7 days shall you eat unleavened bread. Even the first day you shall put away leaven out of your houses. For whosoever eats leavened bread from the first day until the 7th day, that soul shall be cut off from Israel. And in the first day there shall be an holy convocation. And in the seventh day there shall be an holy convocation to you. No manner of work shall be done in them, save that which every man must eat, that only may be done of you. And you shall observe the feast of unleavened bread. For in this selfsame day have I brought your armies out of the land of Egypt. Therefore shall you observe this day in your generations by an ordinance forever. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month, at even, you shall eat unleavened bread, until the 21st day of the month at evening. 7 days shall there be no leaven found in your houses. For whosoever eats that which is leavened, even that soul shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether he be a stranger or born in the land. You shall eat nothing leavened. In all your habitations you shall eat unleavened bread. Then Moshe called for all the elders of Israel, and said unto them, Draw out, and take you a lamb according to your families, and kill the Passover. And you shall take a bunch of hyssop, and dip it in the blood that is in the basin, and strike the lintel and the 2 side posts with the blood that is in the basin. And none of you shall go out at the door of his house until the morning.
Instructions. And we have serious problems with instructions. And if you don't think so, go and tell your kids 2 things. See if they remember to do both of them. Then you understand we've had this problem for a while. And then you understand why Yahweh will turn around and say something in Exodus, then put it in Leviticus, then put it in Numbers, then put it in Deuteronomy, and you be like, why you keep saying this? Because of you. Go ahead.
For Yahweh will pass through to smite the Egyptians, and when he sees the blood upon the lintel and on the 2 side posts, Yahweh will pass over the door and will not suffer the destroyer to come in onto your houses to smite you.
Now, a lot of people believe that we are doing this because of some religious observance, but we don't see that this history has a tendency to be in our future. See, we're going to need this covering of the blood of the Lamb here very shortly, because these destroyers, see, we think that was just some things that happened then. There was a destroyer, and we're not going to have to deal with that anymore. We just enjoying ourselves going through the festivities. But this first Passover was absolute terror. We forget that when we are enjoying ourselves and going through the things. They were in terror. A destroyer is going through the streets, taking out lives. Go ahead.
You know, brother, even when you look at this whole instructions that Yahweh gave him of where the blood is supposed to go, every time he mentions it or he's talking about it, he makes sure he hits both points. The lintel, the 2 side posts. The lintel, the 2 side posts. That way you don't get it wrong and just do one part and forget the other.
Right, because you know us. We'll put it over the shed. And the dogs come out alive and we dead. Go ahead, priest.
And you shall observe this thing for an ordinance to you and to your sons forever. And it shall come to pass, when you be come to the land which Yahweh will give you, according as he has promised, that you shall keep this service. And it shall come to pass, when your children shall say unto you, What mean you by this service? That you shall say, It is the sacrifice of Yahweh's Passover, who passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt, when he smote the Egyptians and delivered our houses. And the people bowed the head and worshiped.
So this is something that we're supposed to talk to our kids about. This is something that we're supposed to go over. They're supposed to see you doing something and begin to ask you, what is this? Because when we doing all manner of other things, they sure pick it up. They pick up, you like to wash your car on Sunday morning. Your kid gonna pick that up. Well, they supposed to pick up these other things too. But that means we have to do it enough for them to see it. And then start asking us questions. Why you keep doing this? You know, there's something in verse 39 I wanted to read. Go to verse 39. I want you to read that.
All right, did you want me to finish verse 28?
Go ahead.
And the children of Israel went away and did as Yahweh had commanded Moshe and Aaron. So did they.
All right. Now jump to verse 39. I want you to read that.
And they baked unleavened cakes of the dough which they brought forth out of Egypt.
Now, so we know that he's talking about this is, you got Passover and then unleavened bread. Okay, so Yahweh does things in a way that removes your decision making. It's very interesting how we always hear most televangelists tell you how God talked to them and God gave them instructions. And now if you really pay attention to most of the people who say God talked to them, you notice that they don't do anything that's written in this book. I find that utterly interesting. They can't do any other things that are written in this book, but let them tell it. God is talking to them constantly. Now, keep reading that.
For it was not leavened, because they were thrust out of Egypt and could not tarry.
That? You see how he made sure that it wasn't leavened? Because he threw them out. All right, come on, let's go. They ain't have time to. See, Yahweh does things and it will make you move. Okay? Y'all see this fine menorah we got over here? It's huge, isn't it? I feel the heat coming from it. Well, that's because the other one broke in two the other day. Apparently, Yahweh said time to get another one. He didn't know. Nobody coming to, oh, sir, we need another menorah. No. I heard a couple of y'all was in the lobby when it went, bing, boom, boom. You know what I'm saying? There it is. So, hey, that day that I had planned was shot. Because I got to go around town to try to figure out, okay, how can I get one? Because I already got on Amazon before. You know, I already got. So I was prepared for the Amazon getting. And I got one and I still got. You know, it's about yay big. It's not, you know what I'm saying? I probably give it to one of my daughters or something. You know, it's the cutest little thing. But it wasn't going to be nothing that we were going to be able to deal with. But see, how did I know that? I already got before. See? So, when I ordered that one, I still jumped up in the morning. All right, let's go. Gotta go here, gotta go there, gotta go here, gotta. Hey, that comes from the past burn. See, you don't remember your past burn and you do the same thing over and over. What is the definition of insanity?
Doing the same thing,
doing the same thing and expecting a different result. Sometimes I have to ask people, okay, didn't you already do this? Okay, so how it turned out last time? Okay, so what you expecting this time? Oh, okay, right. Don't sound very intelligent, do it? Let's jump down to verse 48.
And when a stranger shall sojourn with you, and will keep the Passover to Yahweh, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it. And he shall be as one that is born in the land, for no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof.
Right. So then we went from that ordinance to a whole nother ordinance that governs us now, being that we are not dealing with the physical sacrifices at this point. But we'll get to that in a minute. Let's go to Revelation chapter 9. See, we have to understand that this is not just something that we do in remembrance, because we're going to need that covering here very shortly. And we see how Yahweh deals with things. We're going to go to Revelation 9, and let's read verses 1 through 4.
And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven onto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit.
Now you said it's a star. So when you read these things and it start talking about the stars fall, it's not talking about physical stars. A physical star fall to the earth. They ain't no more. These angels. Go ahead.
And he opened the bottomless pit. And there arose a smoke out of the pit as the smoke of a great furnace. And the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of Elohim in their foreheads.
Only the men which have not the seal of Elohim in their foreheads. So we can go about our business and try to deal with our things if we want. If we end up without that seal of Elohim, when this destruction starts, we're going to have some serious problems. And ain't no do-overs when the angel starts taking care of that business. Ain't no throwing nothing in reverse. Whatever you don't have, you're not going to have. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 4. Jeremiah chapter 4, and we're going to read verses 1 through 9.
If you will return, O Israel, says Yahweh, return unto me. And if you will put away your abominations out of my sight, then shall you not remove. And you shall swear, Yahweh lives, in truth and judgment, and in righteousness. And the nations shall bless themselves in him, and in him shall they glory. For thus says Yahweh to the men of Yehuda and Jerusalem, break up your fallow ground, and sow not among thorns. Circumcise yourselves to Yahweh, and take away the foreskins of your heart.
Right. He's dealing with something spiritual, and this is the Old Testament. Take away the foreskins of your heart. We know what a normal circumcision is. He said, no, you uncircumcised in heart. So the circumcision in flesh didn't take care of what's happening here. Go ahead.
You men of Yehuda and inhabitants of Jerusalem, lest my fury come forth like fire, and burn that none can quench it, because of the evil of your doings. Declare you in Yehuda, and publish in Jerusalem, and say, blow you the trumpet in the land. Cry, gather together, and say, assemble yourselves, and let us go into the defense cities. Set up the standard toward Zion. Retire, stay not, for I will bring evil from the north, and a great destruction. The lion has come up from his thicket, and the destroyer of the Gentiles is on his way.
Right. Of is a derivative of from. So that's not what you think it is. It's the destroyer from the Gentiles, because this is coming to us. So this a little thing piece by piece we're going to get to. So we didn't do what we were supposed to do. So he brings a destroyer from the Gentiles to destroy Israel. But you have to watch how Yahweh operates. Go ahead.
He's gone forth from his place to make your land desolate, and your cities shall be laid waste, without an inhabitant. For this gird you with sackcloth, lament and howl, for the fierce anger of Yahweh is not turned back from us. And it shall come to pass at that day, says Yahweh, that the heart of the king shall perish, and the heart of the princes, and the priests shall be astonished, and the prophets shall wonder.
All right. So he brings then this destroyer of the Gentiles to come and deal with Israel. Okay. We done dealt with a destroyer before. All right. And we had to be covered in the blood of the Lamb for that destroyer not to get a hold of us. Now let's go to Jeremiah chapter 50. Because see, Yahweh says that Israel is the apple of his eye. He will use the nations to whoop you. But when he done, he gonna whoop the nations for putting their hands on you. Jeremiah 50, and let's start that at verse 1.
The word that Yahweh spake against Babylon and against the land of the Chaldeans by Jeremiah the prophet. Declare you among the nations, and publish and set up a standard. Publish and conceal not. Say, Babylon is taken, Bel is confounded, Murdoch is broken in pieces, her idols are confounded, her images are broken in pieces. For out of the north there comes up a nation against her.
He like that north, don't he? He like that north, don't he? We see where the whoopings come from. Go ahead.
We shall make her land desolate, and none shall dwell therein. They shall remove, they shall depart, both man and beast.
So he used the nations of the north to deal with us, and then used somebody above them to come on them. Go ahead.
In those days and in that time, says Yahweh, the children of Israel shall come, they and the children of Yehudah together, going and weeping. They shall go and seek Yahweh, their Elohim. They shall ask the way to Zion with their faces thitherward, saying, Come, and let us join ourselves to Yahweh in a perpetual covenant that shall not be forgotten. My people have been lost sheep. Their shepherds have caused them to go astray. They have turned them away on the mountains. They have gone from mountain to hill. They have forgotten their resting place. All that found them have devoured them. And their adversaries said, We offend not, because they have sinned against Yahweh.
Right. They use your service of Yahweh because it's not done right. They use that as justification to do you wrong. Go ahead.
The habitation of justice, even Yahweh, the hope of their fathers. Remove out of the midst of Babylon, and go forth out of the land of the Chaldeans, and be as the he-goats before the flocks. For, lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon an assembly of great nations from the north country, and they shall set themselves in array against her. From thence shall she be taken. Their arrows shall be as of a mighty expert man. None shall return in vain. And Chaldea shall be a spoil. All that spoil her shall be satisfied, says Yahweh. Because you were glad, because you rejoiced, O you destroyers of mine heritage, because you are grown fat as the heifer grass, and bellow as bulls.
So then you have to pay attention to, these things. That Yahweh says, you destroyer of my heritage. He says the destroyers are the destroyer of the Gentiles. Now he's dealing with that these Gentiles are the destroyers of his heritage, and they are in great power. Yahweh has prophecy double fold. So keep reading.
Your mother shall be sore confounded. She that bare you shall be ashamed. Behold, the hindermost of the nations shall be a wilderness, a dry land, and a desert.
He says your mother shall be sore confounded. So this is a nation that was born out of another nation. We understand that where we're sitting was brought forth out of another nation. Go ahead.
Because of the anger of Yahweh it shall not be inhabited, but it shall be wholly desolate. Everyone that goes by Babylon shall be astonished and hiss at all her plagues.
It sounds strange for us, living in the States. Everybody outside of the States call this place Babylon. We're the only ones that sounds strange to. Go and talk to any Jamaican. That's an easy conversation. Huh? How long you been living in Babylon? Well, hey, come on, man. Don't do that, man. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Everybody else calls this place Babylon. We don't see that. Everybody else does. Africans refer to this place as Babylon. Go ahead.
Put yourselves in array against Babylon round about. All you that bend the bow, shoot at her. Spare no arrows, for she has sinned against Yahweh. Shoot against her round about. She has given her hand, her foundations are fallen, her walls are thrown down. For it is the vengeance of Yahweh. Take vengeance upon her, as she has done, do unto her.
As she has done, do unto her. Very interesting. Now, Yahweh has used her to come against us. Now, he's paying her back. Go ahead.
Cut off the sword from Babylon, and him that handles the sickle in the time of harvest. For fear of the oppressing sword, they shall turn, every one to his people, and they shall flee every one to his own land.
We know that this is a place that's full of other people from other places. See, we don't think that we're going to need this blood of the lamb. We think we just doing some things. Oh, no. Oh, no. We're going to need this blood of the lamb way more than we think. Go ahead.
You know, verse 16 is very deep when he says, cut off the sword from Babylon and him that handles the sickle.
Uh-huh.
We don't produce any food.
None whatsoever.
Once you break that trade and those people trying to come back in with food, it's done. It's over.
When you stop growing your own, now, when they say you can't get none in, or they start blocking your stuff, basically, if it says do unto her as she is done, what did she do?
Embargoes.
There you go. She blocked everything from going to other people. So it's her time. Don't give her no eggs. She ain't got no chickens. She got rid of all her chickens. She got rid of all her farms. Now block all of it. You find that the people who steal don't never want to get stolen from. People who lie don't never want to be lied to. He said, nah, your turn. Go ahead.
Israel is a scattered sheep. The lions have driven her away. First, the king of Assyria has devoured him, and last, this Nebuchadrezzar, king of Babylon, has broken his bones. Therefore, thus says Yahweh of hosts, the El of Israel, behold, I'll punish the king of Babylon and his land, as I have punished the king of Assyria. And I'll bring Israel again to his habitation, and he shall feed on Carmel and Bashan, and his soul shall be satisfied upon the Mount Ephraim and Gilead. In those days and in that time, says Yahweh, the lawlessness of Israel shall be sought for, and there shall be none.
Stop. We know that can't be now then, right? So who them people? He said, I'm going to look for the lawlessness of Israel, and I will be done cleansed it. You won't even find lawlessness among Israel. Well, who them people? Because I still see lawlessness in us and in them people who say they Israel. So then, this ain't happening yet. Well, then understand something. He says, when he does these things, he's going to also send Israel back. Okay, well, once again, who them people? Because he said this when they going back. And you don't think somebody who been fighting for something for that long just gonna give it up, do you? Oh, we're gonna need this covering more than you could ever imagine. Don't nobody fight for nothing for generations to turn around and give it up. All right, you got me. Okay, it ain't us. All right, my bad. That's not gonna happen. They gonna fight to the death for everything. And they have all the best weaponry. Because you bought it. You look at your check and you see that FICA guy? You see FICA? Yeah, FICA helped you buy weapons for the people who shooting at you. You bought that gun. You keep looking, you ought to see your name. Does that say Yaakov? Yeah, that's yours. You bought that gun that he shot at you with. Check that out. And we think we're just observing some things when it comes down to being covered with the blood of the Lamb. Go ahead.
And the sins of Yehuda, and they shall not be found, for I'll pardon them whom I reserve.
I will pardon them whom I reserve. Now, I want you to read this article here. We're going to, I highlighted a few parts. This is called Petrodollar Dusk, Petro One Dawn. I know that's not Bishop Don Juan. Some of y'all. What investors need to know. Read some things from this.
Most investors were trying to gauge the Federal Reserve's next moves in light of recent bank failures last week. Something interesting happened in Moscow. During a 3-day state visit, Chinese President Xi Jinping held friendly talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin in a show of unity, as both countries increasingly seek to position themselves as leaders of what they call a multipolar world order.
All right, so you have several entities as they're trying to push a one world order there's another push to do something else. Go ahead.
One that challenges U.S.-centric alliances. And in case you're wondering, petrodollars are not a real currency. They're simply dollars being used to trade oil. Early in the 1970s, the U.S. government provided economic aid to Saudi Arabia, its chief oil-producing rival, in exchange for assurances that Riyadh would price its crude exports exclusively in the U.S. dollar. In 1975, other members of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, followed suit, and the petrodollar was born. This had the immediate effect of strengthening the U.S. dollar, since countries around the world had to have dollars on hand in order to buy oil, and other key commodities such as gold, also priced in dollars. The greenback became the world's reserve currency, a status formerly enjoyed by the British pound, French franc, and Dutch guilder.
Now, we know how serious this money standard thing is, because everybody who tries to change something, you notice that they end up in a box, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody who tried, even when Gaddafi tried to say he was going to unify Africa and he was going to have a African currency, he disappeared. Mm-hmm. American presidents who all said they was going to change how money was done, they had a stately funeral, all connected to the dollar. Keep reading.
All things must come to an end, however. We may be witnessing the end of the petrodollar as more and more countries, including China and Russia, are agreeing to make settlements in currencies other than the U.S. dollar.
Now remember, Yahweh said, do unto her as she has done unto other people. Go ahead.
You know, this has already happened because Russia, Brazil, and China already done made this agreement.
Well, you got several levels of this. You got one thing on a military level. Mm-hmm. Then you have a whole nother thing on the currency level. No, we talking about they're running hand in hand right now. Places who wouldn't even was scared to even, make a sound if America walked in the room. It's not that way anymore. Why is it not that way anymore? Because it's almost time for you. He said these things happen at the same time. They're going to be dealt with in your turn because your punishment going to be up. See, he hard, but he fair. You're going to do every day of your punishment. Ain't no parole when he give you a sentence. You can go before the board all the time. I've been so good. I've been back here making license plates. I've been doing everything. All my license plates are perfect, Your Honor. Congratulations. Now go back to jail. You ain't coming out of here. You gonna do every bit of this time. But you'll find though. See, I had to learn this from a career criminal. Parole is a setup. Probation is a setup. They give you probation, and the first time you get caught speeding, you get the whole sentence like you did the armed robbery that they put you on probation for 10 years ago. Wait a minute. So for the ticket, I get 10 years? I had a career criminal tell me when it was time, they said they were going to let him go. He said, I said, man, these people trying to let you go home. He said, no, that's a trick. I said, tell me one more crime, man. He said, if I go ahead and I stay the rest of this little time, see, they done already made me do a certain amount of time. If they let me go now, when I come back, I done already did this. But if I do something else, if they just catch me doing something, now I got to do all of it from the top. Like I didn't even do this. I said, well, say that then, crime man. Go ahead.
This could have wide-ranging implications on not just a macro scale, but also investment portfolios.
So then we see here that there's some things going. See, this is chess, not checkers. It's bit by bit. You can't just bring a giant down. It has to be systematic. Jump to the next one.
U.S. dollar is still the world's reserve currency, but its dominance is slipping. Major OPEC nations and BRICS members, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa.
Remember, it was that African that said, what'd he say? If you got some dollars, you might want to find something to do with them. Go ahead.
Are either accepting yuan already or strongly considering it. Russia, Iran, and Venezuela account for 40% of the world's proven oil fields, and the three sell their oil in exchange for yuan. Turkey, Argentina, Indonesia, and heavyweight oil producer Saudi Arabia have all applied for admittance into BRICS, while Egypt became a new member this week.
All right. So when we look at these things, it's important for us to draw some lines and connect that this is not just stuff that we're reading. There are things that are happening in real time that is bringing forth these things. And if we can try to, we try to gather as many dollars as we can and all of these things, when it's all said and done, and you got to give an account for what you did with them, you might want to have something concerning Yahweh in that list. Because if it's going to turn to paper that's like toilet paper, what you got on your side to ask Yahweh to feed you? So he said, well, I looked at, your history when you had all that money. You didn't spend none concerning me. I looked at what you did with it. Some things that we need to consider. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 16. See, it's one thing when we believe that the blood of the lamb is something that we don't need anymore. See, we just think that that's something that happened in the past. But when you deal with some people who have never been without, and they start being without, you about to see a panic like you ain't never seen before. When you deal with people who ain't never had to suffer, understand, when the stock market crashed, when they had every time they have a major economic thing, man, people start jumping out of buildings. We was already poor. We didn't know the difference. They said, it's a depression. We said we was already depressed. We didn't know that. All we know is it was raining white people. They jumping out the building, killing themselves because they now as broke as us. And we're not killing ourselves because we broke. If that the case, we would have just died when we were born. That's not gonna happen. But you have to understand and get ready for the panic that is going to present itself when people feel threatened. You got to think about when Bush came and brought forth these people gonna take over. When they got afraid, you saw how they started acting? It was a panic. These people taking our jobs. These people taking our what? Imagine when that's real. Deuteronomy chapter 16, and let's read verses 1 through 8.
Observe the month of Abib and keep the Passover unto Yahweh your Elohim. For in the month of Abib, Yahweh your Elohim brought you forth out of Egypt by night. You shall therefore sacrifice the Passover unto Yahweh your Elohim of the flock and the herd in the place which Yahweh shall choose to place his name there. You shall eat no leavened bread with it. 7 days shall you eat unleavened bread therewith, even the bread of affliction. The bread of affliction. This bread, because he thrust us out to make sure, that we didn't get a chance to do anything with it. You didn't get a chance to add these things to the bread to make it rise. See? So understand, these things that we add, this is our seasoning. Okay? We don't just add stuff to make it rise. Think about when we add something and when we cooking, we're preparing things. You adding flavoring. So he said the bread of affliction. He said, well, what it tastes like? I don't know.
What you mean you don't know? I don't know what it tastes like. It just tastes. It was something. I definitely tasted something. But when you don't get a chance to season it, we know that's the I don't cook. But I know that's the first part of cook. If you don't season your stuff, it just tastes like stuff. Go ahead.
You know, when you look at the bread of affliction, you also see that future thing coming along, because then that becomes a representation of Yahshua's suffering his body.
Right. Go ahead.
For you cameth forth out of the land of Egypt in haste, that you may remember the day when you came forth out of the land of Egypt all the days of your life. And there shall be no leavened bread seen with you in all your coasts 7 days, neither shall there anything of the flesh which you sacrifice the first day at even remain all night until the morning. You may not sacrifice the Passover within any of your gates, which Yahweh your Elohim gives you.
Now, in the beginning, they had to join from house to house to get this lamb. Once they get a place where they can go, you're not allowed to sacrifice the Passover at any of your gates. So then Yahweh then sees the difference between what's necessary and what's not. So we have many members who are not close to us. They already covered. But for those who are close, he demands where you're supposed to be. We see that just in the two. Right there, boom, they didn't have a place, sacrifice it right there. You and your neighbor. But once he get a place, you're not allowed to do that anymore. Go ahead.
But at the place which Yahweh your Elohim shall choose to place his name in, there shall you sacrifice the Passover at even, at the going down of the sun, at the season that you came forth out of Egypt. And you shall roast it, and you shall roast and eat it in the place which Yahweh your Elohim shall choose, and you shall turn in the morning and go on to your tents. 6 days you shall eat unleavened bread, and on the 7th day shall be a solemn assembly to Yahweh your Elohim. You shall do no work therein.
All right. Let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 11. First Corinthians 11, and let's start that at verse 23.
For I have received of the Adonai that which also I delivered unto you, that the Adonai Yahshua, the same night in which he was betrayed, took bread. And when he had given thanks, he brake it, and said, Take, eat, this is my body, which is broken for you. This do in remembrance of me. After the same manner also he took the cup, when he had supped, saying, This cup is the New Testament in my blood. This do you, as often as you drink it, in remembrance of me. For as often as you eat this bread and drink this cup, you do show the Adonai's death till he come. Wherefore whosoever shall eat this bread and drink this cup of the Adonai unworthily shall be guilty of the body and blood of the Adonai. But let a man examine himself, and so let him eat of that bread and drink of that cup. For he that eats and drinks unworthily eats and drinks damnation to himself, not discerning the Adonai's body. For this cause many are weak and sickly among you, and many sleep. For if we would judge ourselves, we should not be judged. But when we are judged, we are chastened of the Adonai, that we should not be condemned with the world.
All right. Let's go to, I want you to go to Romans chapter 6. We have to deal with this unworthily part right here. Let a man examine himself. So there's a thing we tell people that you need to be baptized in the name of Yahshua before you take part in the bread and the wine. Romans chapter 6, and I want to read verses 1 through 4.
What shall we say then? Shall we continue in sin, that grace may abound? Elohim forbid. How shall we, that are dead to sin live any longer therein. Know you not that so many of us as were baptized into Yahshua HaMashiach were baptized into his death?
Listen, you were baptized into his death. It says many eat this unworthily. This is why we say if you have not been baptized in the name of Yahshua, you cannot take part in the body and the blood. Understand? He says eat this, drink this. Now, we go back to the whole beginning of Passover. You had to eat it. So here it is. He's becoming the Passover, and he's saying, except you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you have no place in me. They say, oh man, he done lost his mind. The Passover you had to eat. So if we get down to this, also remember the first ordinance. You had to have a circumcision to do it. Well, what is the requirement on this side? You have to be baptized in his name to be able to partake in the body and blood of him. So we got regulations on the front. We got regulations on the back. Let's go to Numbers. Go ahead and finish that up.
Therefore we are buried with him by baptism into death.
Therefore we are buried with him by baptism into death. Go ahead.
That like as the Mashiach was raised up from the dead by the glory of the Father, even so we also should walk in newness of life.
All right. Now let's go to Numbers chapter 9. See, it means something being baptized in his name. You have access to some things. Numbers 9, and we're going to read verses 1 through 14.
And Yahweh spake unto Moshe in the wilderness of Sinai in the first month of the second year after they were come out of the land of Egypt, saying, Let the children of Israel also keep the Passover at this appointed season. In the 14th day of this month at even, you shall keep it in his appointed season, according to all the rites of it, and according to all the ceremonies thereof shall you keep it. And Moshe spake unto the children of Israel that they should keep the Passover. And they kept the Passover on the 14th day of the first month at even in the wilderness of Sinai. According to all that Yahweh commanded Moshe, so did the children of Israel. And there were certain men who were defiled by the dead body of a man, that they could not keep the Passover on that day.
They couldn't keep it on that day because something had befallen them. They ended up having to deal with a situation. And if you just somewhere and the situation presents itself, it is what it is. Go ahead.
And they came before Moshe and before Aaron on that day. And those men said unto him, We are defiled by the dead body of a man. Wherefore are we kept back, that we may not offer an offering of Yahweh in his appointed season among the children of Israel.
Now they understand something about the law. It's his appointed season. This is appointed when we are supposed to do this. But because this thing has happened, now I'm going to be out of season. He didn't just, say, hey, you can do it. No, I'm going to be out of season if I'm kept back. So he has to go to the leadership about this. Go ahead.
And Moshe said unto them, Stand still, and I'll hear what Yahweh will command concerning you.
You see how sometimes something comes up, there ain't nothing written about it. Moshe got to pause. Stop thinking you got to answer everything that come to you. I'm going to have to meditate on that. He got to go to Yahweh. Now, he could have just took it upon himself to try to answer it. Go ahead.
And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, If any man of you or of your posterity shall be unclean by reason of a dead body, or be in a journey afar off, yet he shall keep the Passover unto Yahweh. The 14th day of the second month at even they shall keep it, and eat it with unleavened bread and bitter herbs.
Right. You still got to do it the same way, but in the next month. Go ahead.
You know, even in this far off journey, not because you decided to go take a trip.
Exactly. You know, it was my anniversary, so and it was good prices. Okay. Go ahead.
They shall leave none of it unto the morning, nor break any bone of it. According to all the ordinances of the Passover, they shall keep it. But the man that is clean and is not in a journey, and forbear to keep the Passover, even that same soul shall be cut off from among his people, because he brought not the offering of Yahweh in his appointed season. That man shall bear his sin.
All right, so it not only meant that something that he brings his offering, it meant something when he brought. No, you bring it at the wrong time. No, that's not accepted. You had an appointed season that you were supposed to bring forth this. It's not accepted. And that's something that we have to understand. Let's go to Matthew chapter 27. Matthew chapter 27, and we're going to start this at verse 15.
Now at that feast the governor was wont to release unto the people a prisoner whom they would. And they had then a notable prisoner called Barabbas.
Notable. That means everybody know that he's a man of crime. Go ahead.
Therefore when they were gathered together, Pilate said unto them, Whom will you that I release unto you, Barabbas or Yahshua, which is called the Mashiach? For he knew that for envy they had delivered him.
So he knows that he don't really have any business being locked up with the man of crime. Go ahead.
When he was set down on the judgment seat, his wife sent unto him, saying, Have you nothing to do with that just man? For I have suffered many things this day in a dream because of him. But the chief priests and elders persuaded the multitude that they should ask Barabbas and destroy Yahshua. The governor answered and said unto them, Whether of the two will you that I release unto you? They said, Barabbas. Pilate says unto them, What shall I do then with Yahshua who is called the Mashiach? They all say unto him, Let him be crucified.
And you see, it's kind of, interesting how we can be persuaded by other people. How the rulership wanted him gone because of, these things that he's able to do that they cannot do. And they were able to convince the rest of the people to go along with it. Go ahead.
And the governor said, Why? What evil has he done? But they cried out the more, saying, Let him be crucified. When Pilate saw that he could prevail nothing, but that rather a tumult was made, he took water and washed his hands before the multitude, saying, I am innocent of the blood of this just person. See you to it. Then answered all the people and said, His blood be on us and on our children.
And we don't even here's the thing when you get stuck in the moment. You so in the moment and so into self-preservation at the moment that you're not paying attention how you're damning yourself. That these words come out, His blood be on us and on our children. We don't even understand what we've done. Go ahead.
Then released he Barabbas unto them, and when he had scourged Yahshua, he delivered him to be crucified. Then the soldiers of the governor took Yahshua unto the common hall, and gathered unto him the whole band of soldiers. And they stripped him, and put on him a scarlet robe. And when they had platted a crown of thorns, they put it upon his head, and a reed in his right hand. And they bowed the knee before him, and mocked him, saying, Hail, King of the Yehudis! And they spit upon him, and took the reed, and smote him on the head. And after that they had mocked him, they took the robe off from him, and put his own raiment on him, and led him away to crucify him. And as they came out, they found a man of Cyrene, Simeon by name. Him they compelled to bear his cross. And when they were come unto a place called Golgotha, that is to say, a place of a skull, they gave him vinegar to drink mingled with gall. And when he had tasted thereof, he would not drink. And they crucified him, and parted his garments, casting lots, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophet. They parted my garments among them, and upon my vesture did they cast lots.
Right. So when you get to this part, they crucified him. The Romans were very good at torture. They have a real thing with hanging and torturing individuals in public. It becomes a spectacle. Hey, when they hung our people out, they gathered out to watch. They hung us at that right after church. We see those pictures. They was in their Sunday best, posing under the feet of a hung black man, and act like, you know, hey, it was all good. Kids posing in the picture. This is their manner of things that they are common to do. Go ahead.
And sitting down, they watched him there, and set up over his head his accusation written, "This is Yahshua, the king of the Yehudis." Then were there 2 thieves crucified with him, one on the right hand and another on the left. And they that passed by reviled him, wagging their heads, and saying, "You that destroyed the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself. If you be the son of Elohim, come down from the cross." Likewise also the chief priests mocking him with the scribes and elders said, "He saved others, himself he cannot save. If he be the king of Israel, let him now come down from the cross, and we will believe him."
You see the beauty of how Yahweh does things. He gives everybody an opportunity to show themselves. See, if he shows his power beforehand, they won't do all the evil that is in their heart. So Yahweh pauses. He doesn't show his power right away, so that men will reveal themselves. Then after they show who they are, then he shows who he is. Go ahead.
He trusted in Elohim. Let him deliver him now, if he will have him. For he said, "I am the son of Elohim."
All right. Let's hear the conclusion of this matter. Let's go to Yohanan chapter 13. John chapter 13, and we're going to start that at verse 1.
Now before the feast of Passover, when Yahshua knew that his hour was come, that he should depart out of this world unto the Father, having loved his own which were in the world, he loved them unto the end. And supper being ended, the devil having now put into the heart of Yehudas Iscariot, Simeon's son, to betray him, Yahshua, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands, and that he was come from Elohim and went to Elohim, he rose from supper and laid aside his garments, and took a towel and girded himself. And after that he pours water into a basin, and began to wash the disciples' feet, and to wipe them with the towel wherewith he was girded. Then cometh he to Simeon Peter, and Cephas says unto him, "Adonai, does you wash my feet?"
This is something that does not seem normal. You are the leader of us. Why would you be washing our feet? This is not how things are supposed to go in the earth. We're supposed to wash your feet. They don't feel right about this. Go ahead.
Yahshua answered and said unto him, "What I do you knoweth not now, but you shall know hereafter."
You don't understand that I'm cleansing you. See, there's certain things we'll pay attention to one thing and not put any emphasis on the other. We'll come and take part in the body and the blood and then skip the foot washing. You don't understand what you skipped. Go ahead.
Cephas says unto him, "You shall never wash my feet." Yahshua answered him, "If I wash you not, you have no part with me." Simeon Peter says unto him, "Adonai, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head."
See, first, he don't want to do it. Now he want to overdo it. Ain't that us? Go ahead.
Yahshua says to him, he that is washed needs not save to wash his feet, but is clean every way. And you are clean, but not all.
Understand, even these cleansing, this hands and feet washing, there's a laver that was in leading into the holy place that the priests then washed themselves before they took part of the service. So here, Yahshua is instituting priestly things and we don't even know it. Go ahead.
For he knew who should betray him. Therefore said he, you are not all clean. So after he had washed their feet and had taken his garments and was set down again, he said unto them, know you what I've done to you? You call me master and Adonai, and you say well, for so I am. If I then, your Adonai and master, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet.
And this is something that we have to do and even humble ourselves. Because, you know, hey, before we got into this word, there ain't no way you was going to tell a man, you know, hey, I need you to wash this man's feet. Who are you talking to? See, this shows you the power of the word right here. Because I know a couple of these brothers would have swung on me in the streets. This tells you the power. I can see the power of the word looking right at me. To get manly men to wash one another's feet. Go ahead.
For I've given you an example that you should do as I have done to you.
Uh-huh.
Verily, verily, I say unto you, the servant is not greater than his master, neither he that is sent greater than he that sent him.
You see the thing though. I have given you this example that you should do as I have done unto you. You have to wash one another's feet, which means you can't wash your own. I don't think we're paying attention. You can't wash your own. See, what we do before the sun go down to cleanse yourself, yeah, you wash your feet to make sure that you are spiritually clean. All right. But when we talking about cleansing something off you can't do it. You need your brother for that. You need your sister for that. Right. Keep reading.
If you know these things, happy are you if you do them. I speak not of you all. I know whom I have chosen, but that the scripture may be fulfilled, he that eats bread with me has lifted up his heel against me.
Uh-huh.
Now I tell you before it come, that when it is come to pass, you may believe that I am he. Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that receives whomsoever I send receives me, and he that receives me receives him that sent me.
All right. That's all that we're going to do for tonight. We are going to prepare to take part of the body and the blood of Yahshua. After that, we are going to partake in our meal. And after that, we are going to do the foot washing. All right. So we are going to prepare for this first. And all the people who are at home and are doing this amongst, you know, yourselves, that is the order that we are going to be doing it. Body and blood, you pray over that, then your meal, then the foot washing. All right? Enjoy the rest of your feast. Shalom.
Shalom.